this is Kirsten from JK Fiber Arts. Today I am going to show you how to spin a self-striping yarn. I have this beautiful merino and alpaca blend from Kamaj Fiber Arts. It is so soft and lovely, and it was a sample pack, and it had these 6 colors in it right here: the red, the purple, the natural, green, blue, and gray. And it was a total of about 5.5 ounces, and I was gonna use it in blend. I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do with it. I've had it for a while, and it's so beautiful and it feels so nice, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna not use it in a blend and spin it. So what I've decided to do is I've just divided it into little nests of color, and I just am repeating this color order. And I have already started spinning this on my wheel, and I'm going to chain ply it. And when you have a spin like this, and I'm keeping all the colors in blocks, then I chain ply. It's going to give us a nice striped yarn effect. This is a single that I started last night, and I've already gone through a couple of these color repeats. On my bobbin, I have nice solid blocks of color here. I am spinning, I've already forgotten what single I started with last night. This is about a 14. So I'm spinning a 14 single, and then I'm going to chain ply this, so it'll be 3 ply when I'm done. And the merino and the alpaca, baby alpaca, this is spinning like butter. Like butter. And do a little ply back here. Make sure I'm still in the 14 area. Yep, that's right in there. Yeah, that is a beautiful yarn. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it with the black background. Might be easier to see. So all I do is I just have the order. I'm just going to maintain the order of those little nests. And I'm going to spin the singles here, keeping it right at that 14-ish WPI, and then we will chain ply. And I'm just going to stay in this color pattern, repeating these little nests of fiber until I get all of it on here. My plan is to put this all on one bobbin. I don't actually think it's going to all fit on this bobbin. I'll probably end up using 2 of the smaller bobbins. I should have done a jumbo bobbin, but I didn't feel like putting on my jumbo flyer. So, but this should be a very quick spin. And then I will show you how to chain ply this and show you the final yarn. Here's the first bobbin single, all finished and looking lovely. You can see the nice symmetric color blocks. So let's get this chain plied. This is my Lazy Kate. I wanted to take a moment, ignore my, this is my light arm, to talk about tensioned Lazy Kate. So this is really important when you're chain plying, because it's a pain in the butt whenever you break your single when you're chain plying. You want the ability to pull this off smoothly without it rolling back. Usually when I'm doing 2-ply, I have it set a little bit tighter. This one I set it a little bit looser on the tension so that there's not a lot of resistance when I'm pulling, so it doesn't break as readily. Let's get started. The way I chain ply is, first of all, treadling faster on chain ply does not work well, because my hands usually, when I'm just straightforward 2-plying, can go really fast, and my feet can go really fast. So usually I'll have this on a smaller whirl, so the twist goes in faster, everything is faster. When I'm chain plying, my hands don't move as fast. So I have to slow down my treadle And I also am putting this on the larger whirl so that my ratio is going to be lower per treadle. So I'm not spinning my flyer as fast per wheel revolution. And my draw, we'll see how that is. So what I've done here is my leader, I just tie it in a loop. I just double it over. And then the next thing you're going to do is take your single and get to a place, you know, this part of it here, doesn't have a lot of twist to it, so I'm gonna let that be. And you want a single where you can get your hand through, and you're just gonna tie a loop in that. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm taking the loop on my single that I have made and the loop on my leader that I have here. And I'm going to put my single loop through my leader loop, like so. And then we are ready to start. And what I'm doing is, now this is my single, and I'm going to wind this onto my wheel just a little bit here. So now I'm going to take my right hand through the loop, and I'm going to grab the single where it's single and not doubled anymore. With my other hand, I'm going to slide along, and you'll see right here is where this is going to ply over top of each other, and that's where people complain about getting that little bump. I slide my finger along that bump the whole way, and you want to try to make as big a loops as possible. That way you have fewer of these little join spaces. And so I just keep pulling through. It's kind of like, it's like chain crochet with your hands. And I roll my thumbs right over that little join just to make sure the twist is distributed over it nicely. And you can see my feet and my wheel are both going a lot slower than I typically do when I'm just straight up 2 and 3 plying. And this is all there is to it. And I'm pinching, so my front hand I'm pinching when I'm going forward, and I'm sliding along, and now my back hand is holding tension, so you never want this to get slack. And we are rolling here. It sounds like something is scraping on my wheel. I don't know what that is. May have to stop and check it out. And so for me, and you can see here, this was, let me stop this for a second. This was an area where I was a little inconsistent in my spin. And you can see my spin here was very thin, and it joined with an area that was thick. So I have this kind of bump here, and that's what'll happen if you're not consistent. That's the only spot on here, because all the other spots where there was a chain, you can't even feel it when you run your hand over it. In fact, where is it? It's here. It's right here. And if you do this, you can see we have a nice ply back here. Look at that. Oh, it looks so good. And my thickness here is, let's see, this is a, oh well, on here it's a 9. This is clearly not a worsted weight yarn. This is much thicker than a worsted weight. This is probably going to end up being at least an 8. It's probably an 8. This is going to be between an Aran and like a light, bulky yarn. The goal with chain ply is I'm just maintaining these solid colors. So when I knit this up, it's going to give me a stripe pattern. And there'll be obviously a little bit of blending when we get to the color change This is gonna make a wonderful, wonderful, whoop, what happened there? A little too much twist in that. But that's okay. The good news is we can smooth that out. It is, I think, really easy to over twist chain ply. That's why I am, so here's a good example of the join right here, and you can see that, you know, obviously I joined it here, you know, that's where the loop is, but you don't feel a big bump or anything. That's not going to be uncomfortable against your skin at all. So the two things that you'll see with chain ply, one is it's easy to overply. Two, if you underply or don't distribute the twist evenly at those joins, you'll have those loops will stand out and be more prominent, and you don't want that either. And again, this is this merino and baby alpaca blend, so I really want to have this be nice and not overplied, because I don't want to make rope here. I want this to have this nice soft halo. This is going to be really, really nice next to skin soft here. I'm imagining a cowl and some mittens. You can see that the single is not breaking, and I've even snagged it a couple of times. I actually had to take I had a long sleeve shirt on, and I had to take it off because the button on my sleeve kept catching, and even that was, it didn't break it. Let's here and do a little ply back check. There, yeah, and I like that. See, I want that nice soft twist this, and it feels, divine. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. And the key to a good chain ply is consistent treadling and keeping this tension in the system here so that it doesn't have any slack to kind of twist up on itself. What is it, a system under tension? Think about weaving in this particular instance. A system under tension is a system under control. It is so easy to get too much twist in here, and when you take it off your nitty knotty, it will really coil up. I am an offender of that sometimes. I forget, and then my feet start going really at their normal cadence, and my hands are not fast enough to keep up. Now, maybe you guys have faster hands than I do. That's why I don't like to chain ply, because it takes me so much longer than to just do a 3-ply. But you won't get this purity of stripe that way either. You know, it'll be, there'll be a little more blending. If I divided this into equal thirds and did my best to spin it equally, then, it probably would be close, but it wouldn't be as good as it is when you chain ply it for a self stripe. I'm ready to join the second bobbin. So what I have done, here is the second single. I'm just going to take off some of this untwisted stuff at the end here. What I have here is just where I finished, and here was my end, and I've kept my loop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little spit splice at this single to this single, okay? And spit splicing, if you're not familiar with it here, I'm going to get to this fluzzed up end here, and same thing. And I'm going to put some spit from my mouth on here. Usually I'll just lick my fingers and get it wet. And I'm going to work on this twist here. Pinching here so this doesn't all wind back up on itself. Come through here. And now I've made that new loop, and I have all this extra twist in it. So I'm just going to let that extra twist fill in there. Not quite enough spit. All right, now we are in business, and I'm going to fold this back to where it was thin, and I'm making a loop here, and I'm going to pinch this, my index and thumb, and I'm going to pull this through the loop, and I'm going to apply it. There we go. Now we are back on track and we're all joined. Usually you don't have to do that little extra part where I just added in there, but I let too much of the twist come out of my single, and that's what happens. But spit splice is how I join. Here is the finished bobbin, and you can see the very clear, solid striping colors. This is the self-striping alpaca on the Nitty Knotty 6. So I'm between a 5 and a 6 on this. I'm gonna call that bulky. Here is my self-striping final yarn, and I'm going to knit up a very quick fingerless mitt pattern. Here is an example of the knitted self-striping yarn. I just kind of modified, this is a very, very basic garter stitch hem or cuff on this. And this is the striped pattern. And I like the way this went. The only thing that I changed was when I put these stitches on the holder, the scrap yarn for the thumb, when I rejoined, I pulled the yarn out of the ball until I got to the red, so it went red-gray, so that the thumb matched with the stripe. Now, here's the other one, and this is one of those things that you get from hand knitting. One, somehow I messed up the order of the spinning. I have red, gray, blue, green, and for some reason here I have red, gray, green, blue. And my stripe is wider so far on this one. I don't care. And then when I finish, when I pulled the yarn from here, I'll just pick up the purple. And I have this that I pulled for this side. I just unwound until I got to red. So, you know, purple came before red, and I will just pick this up here and do the purple on the thumb. The other thing I was going to show you or talk a little bit about was when I started, this weighed 155 grams. And I wanted to make these little fingerless mitts and see if I had enough left to make a cowl. So what I'm going to do is just weigh. This is 34 grams for this mitten. That makes 68 grams of yarn total that I will have used. So I'm going to look around and see if I can find a cowl pattern for a bulky weight yarn that uses, you know, 130, 135 grams of yarn. The other thing I can do is I can calculate the grist with this as well if I need to find my final yardage. This is an excellent opportunity to talk about grist. I would like to find out how much I will have available to see if I can find a pattern for a small cowl to go with this. The yarn that I have here, I know my basic weight and I know the yardage. So grist is expressed as yards per pound. So if I have a pound of this fiber, you know, how many yards would I get out of it? Well, I've already done the basic math in ounces. When I wound this yarn on, I know that I started with 5.5 ounces, and it ended up being 170 yards for that 5.5 ounces. So I weighed my fingerless mitts, and the one mitt weighed 34 grams. So it was 68 grams was what I used, and that left me with 87 grams left over. We're gonna remember this, I have 87 grams of yarn left. So my grist, which would be yards per pound, what I'm gonna do, since I'm working with a small volume of yarn, is use 16 ounces instead of 1 pound. So basically 5.5 ounces is a third of a pound. So I multiply that by 3. So my 170 yards times 3 is gonna give me the 510 yards per pound. So that is my grist for this alpaca merino blend. So now I can figure out what I have yardage wise left to work with. 510 yards in 1 pound, and again I'm going to use 16 ounces for that. And then I'm just going to kind of use a little bit of algebra here and solve for x. And the remaining, oh, that's what I didn't do, 87 grams is about 3 ounces. And then I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to solve for my little x thing here. So I want to figure this out, x yards, how many yards do I have left? And then I have 3 ounces. So basically all I'm going to do is take the 16 ounces and I'm just going to do a cross multiply and solve for x. So I end up with 16x equals 510 times 3, which I already did that math, is 1530. And now I'm going to solve for x. So x equals 1530 divided by 16, which equals 95.62 yards. 95.62 yards remaining. So I can look up a pattern that uses, you know, a little less than 100 yards. If there's a little mini cowl pattern, I'm gonna do it.
Here's my finished fingerless striped mitts and the striped cowl, and you'll notice that obviously you knit longer rows, we have thinner repeats, and with the fingerless mitts I have one actually turned out a little bit thicker stripes than the other, but when you wear them you really can't tell the difference. So looks pretty good. I cast on 85 stitches, which is about 22 inches or so. And then I lightly blocked this. You can see I let it lay flat too long to block and I have a crease, but that will come out when I wear it. But there you go. And Grist did not fail me. I had this left over. Let's see what we got here. 13 grams. I had 13 grams left over. There you have it. The beauty of Grist, how to spin a self-striping yarn, and just a little basic sample of what it can look like knit up. Until next time, Erlene and I want you to have a great weekend. Spin happy.